Hello, good afternoon. Today we're going to be discussing chapter 8 of JavaScript, which is functions. So what is a function? Basically, a function is a block of code that performs a specific task, right? So as you can see here, functions allow us to run the same piece of code from multiple places in a program without having to copy and paste the code repeatedly. So that's also another way to see functions. But basically, it's to perform a specific task. So here's a basic example of a function. So you have a function here. This is the keyword, which is function. And it is followed by the name of the function, which is greet user. What this function is doing is welcoming you to this whatever website is welcoming you to. So that's its function. Its function is to greet the user. So that's a basic, just a basic way to see functions. So creating a simple function, you can also call a function. So how that's done is basically the name of the function you type and then followed by parentheses. So as you can see here, here's a variable welcoming. Assigned to it is a function named greet. Then console.log, so it will log this as a result. Hello, welcome to JavaScript. That's the function taking place, right? It greets the user. But how it's called, basically, in order for it to be called, so in other words, you can say in order for it to be executed, you use this in this example. The name of the function followed by the parentheses. So that's how you call a function. Then you can also pass arguments into functions. So how that's done is because functions take specific parameters to accept values that you input. So functions can take parameters to accept input values. So when we look at this example, we see a function called add numbers. Within the parameters, the parentheses, we have A and B. What this function is aiming to do is to add these two, these two arguments. So in this case, it also calls the arguments, calls the function, and what happens is 5 and 10 is added, 7 and 3 is added. So if you can see how that will look as a final result. Oh, it's not showing. Just need to do this. Here is the basic way that is shown now. I didn't cancel the other block of code, so this is showing, but let's ignore this for now. So the sum is 15, the sum is 10. That's because the function was called, and also because we passed specific arguments into the function. So yeah. So that result is shown because we called the argument, we called the function, and we also passed specific arguments within the function. Then, moving on, you can also pass multiple arguments within a function as well. So it can be more than one argument within a function. So as you can see here, we have argument 1 and argument 2. And what will happen is there will be a first argument and there will be a second argument. So let's see this example here. So we have the variable print multiple times and the function and 2 arguments passed into the function. So that's to obtain basically two functions, 2 arguments in the function. So it does 2 things. So it performs more than one task, let me say. Then we also return values from functions as well. So returning values from functions. So the functions, basically returning specific values from functions. It's like, essentially the return statement it's used inside the function, and it basically sends a value back to where the function was called, right? So when a return statement is executed, the function stops running and returns specified value. So we can see an example here of a function being returned. Or let me say a value being returned, within a function. So, not this one. Yeah. So here you have your function, name of the function is add. What the aim of this function is to do is to add x and y together to get the final result. Now, we have this. Let me change this to var. We have this variable sum. Assigned to it is add 10 and 5. But over here, we need to return x and y. So basically returning is to send the value back to where the function was called, essentially. A function can also return a random word as well. So you can use the random word generator to return a function, as long as you use this syntax, return, and will return the words within the parentheses, basically. So if we can look at this example here, we have a variable named eat favorite food, and assigned to this variable is a specific function. This function has my favorite food within the parentheses, right? The aim of this is to perform a task. Let's eat my favorite food, and the list of foods are listed here. The reason it's listed here is to call the specific function, basically. So if you can see how that looks on the console, on the debugger, let me say. here's the final result of what that will look like. So because we called the function, that's essentially how it would look. Let's eat burger, let's eat lasagna, let's eat banana bread. So that's the function being activated there. So here's the code on the debugger. So I'm gonna break at this line. When I step over, it moves to the first, let me say the first, can I say the first function? Which is, well, let me say the first value, which is burger, right? And then you step over and it moves to the next one. And when you step over, it moves to the final one. So these, this is basically how you call the function. Without this, you cannot call the function. So the function is called by the name of the function, followed by the parentheses. And within the parentheses, you put the arguments. And then, yeah, so we also spoke about passing multiple arguments within functions and using return as well. If we can go back to return, over here at return, right? Basically, if we can see this in the debugger, will be a good way to understand. What happens is this number is returned. The reason it's returned is because of this line of code. Return x plus y. Now when you go here to the variable, there's specific values assigned to it. 10 and 5. What happens is these are added because of the return statement. So the aim of the return is to take x and y and add them and give you the final result of 10 plus 15. 10 plus 5, sorry, which is 15. That's how the return statement works when you look at it in that way. So yeah, essentially that's functions, the basic understanding of functions, and yeah, just how it works with the return, how it works with calling a function, and all of that. So yeah, thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. That's chapter 8 of JavaScript functions. Alright.